You know, usually when we talk about a medical diagnosis, there's this expectation of precision.
Oh, totally. Like you want it to be exact.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Like,
engineering, right?
yeah.
You break your arm, the X-ray shows that jagged white line, and the doctor just points and says, there it is.
Right. It's binary, it's clean. And I mean, it's deeply comforting because we really like things to be visible and categorized.
Yeah, we want the proof, but then you step into the world of human suffering, right? Into the landscape of our own daily anxieties, and suddenly that X-ray machine is, well, it's completely useless. We're looking at a landscape that is just murky.
It is the absolute definition of diagnostic muddy waters. It's messy.
Which is exactly why we're unpacking this specific premise today for our deep dive. Because if you're listening to this right now, the anxiety, the dread, that heavy emotional weight you might be carrying around, the core thesis we're looking at today is that it doesn't actually come from what happens to you in your life.
Right.
It comes entirely from your thinking about what happens to you.
It's a massive paradigm shift. I mean, a total flip. And when you first hear that, it sounds almost, I don't know, offensively simple.
Oh, yeah. Like, thanks, I'm cured.
Exactly. But the source material we are analyzing today, which is a summary of Joseph Nguyen's book, Don't Believe Everything You Think, Why Your Thinking is the Beginning and End of Suffering, it builds a very rigorous framework around this.
And I have to say, the visual aid provided with our source material literally just says book summary in.
Yeah.
Like giant gold letters.
Right to the point.
Straight to the point.
That's
Just
it.
how we like it.
No fluff.
No fluff at all. And what we're going to explore is how blending cognitive psychology with this kind of foundational philosophy can actually dismantle the mechanics of our own suffering.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that separation, the idea that my thinking is causing my suffering, creates a massive problem right out of the gate.
How so?
Well, if my thinking is the cause of my suffering, but I am the one thinking, how do I escape myself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The classic trap. Right. To really grasp this premise, we have to address what the source material points out as a fundamental case of mistaken identity. The text states very clearly, and I quote, "You are not your thoughts. Thoughts arise and pass you are the awareness behind them."
That single sentence is, I mean, it's the hinge upon which this entire philosophy turns.
It is huge.
It really is. And it requires us to completely reclassify what the human mind actually is. Nguyen classifies the mind simply as a tool.
It's just a tool.
Yeah, not an identity, a tool. Like a hammer or a calculator or, your digestive system.
Okay, hold on. I have to push back here.
Go for it.
Because if my stomach is digesting, I know I'm not the digestion. I can feel it happening. That's separate. But if I am thinking right now, if my thoughts are literally generating the words coming out of my mouth and my thoughts are making my decisions, how can I not be my thought?
Right, it feels too intimate.
Exactly. If I'm just... the awareness, doesn't that make me like a passive bystander in my own life? If I just sit back and observe my thoughts, how do I ever get anything done? What does awareness actually mean in a practical sense?
That is the exact friction point everyone hits when they first encounter this concept. I mean, everyone. So let's ground this in neuroscience for a second before we get philosophical.
I like that. Science first.
When we talk about the mind generating thoughts on autopilot, we are largely talking about the default mode network in the brain, the DMN.
The DMN. Got it.
This is a network of interacting brain regions that is highly active when you are not focused on the outside world. It's the brain's idling state. It's responsible for daydreaming, self-reflection, and projecting into the past and future.
So it's like the background hum of the machinery.
Exactly. It's always running. Now think about your liver. Your liver's job is to secrete bile and filter toxins, right? It does this automatically, 24/7. Your brain's default mode network is an organ whose biological function is to secrete thoughts. It secretes predictions, memories, and judgments.
It's a thought-secreting organ.
Yes. And it is a prediction machine heavily biased toward the negative for survival reasons. But because the brain uses our own internal voice to narrate these secretions, we collapse the distance. We merge the observer with the output. We think we are the broadcast.
Okay, let's use an analogy here for you listening. Is it like walking into a kitchen where a loud talk radio is blaring, and because we've been in the kitchen so long, we've mistakenly convinced ourselves that we are the radio DJ?
That's a great starting point, but let's make it even more modern and accurate.
Okay.
Think of your brain not as a radio, but as an incredibly aggressive social media algorithm.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What does an algorithm want?
It wants your attention.
Exactly. It wants engagement. So
Yeah.
what does it feed you? It feeds you outrage, worst-case scenarios, and anxiety-inducing comparisons, because those are the most evolutionarily sticky concepts.
It's feeding me clickbait.
Yes, your brain is generating cognitive clickbait. You're going to fail that presentation. Your friends are hanging out without you. You're not saving enough for retirement.
The greatest hits.
Right. When Nguyen says you are the awareness, he means you are the person holding the phone. You are not the algorithm. You are not the timeline.
I am the user.
Exactly. You are the user who has the capacity to look at the notification, recognize it as clickbait designed to hijack your nervous system, and choose not to click on it.
Okay, so the mistaken identity is that I've been walking around believing I am the algorithm.
Mm.
When my brain generates a thought that says, you're a failure, I take it as a core, unvarnished truth of my existence.
Instead of a pop-up.
Right, rather than just a push notification from an overactive survival organ.
Precisely. And this is what the text means by living on autopilot. Autopilot is when the separation between the user and the algorithm vanishes.
You just merge with the feed?
Yeah. If you are on autopilot, you click every single notification. You take every single one of those distorted, unreal broadcasts as absolute reality. True awakening in the context of this book isn't about gaining some mystical superpower.
It's not levitate.
No, it is the sudden, jarring realization that you are the space in which the thoughts are happening. You are the space.
But if that's true, why does it hurt so much?
What do you mean?
Because if I get a push notification on my phone that says something terrible, I might be annoyed, but it doesn't cause me deep, prolonged emotional agony. Yet when my brain serves up a thought, it physically wrecks me. My chest tightens, my stomach drops. Why does the radio's broadcast physically hurt me?
Because of the way our biology is wired to respond to perceived reality, your nervous system cannot tell the difference between a physical threat in the room and a highly vivid psychological threat generated by your mind.
Right. It just reacts.
Yes. Which brings us to the anatomy of suffering. The text is very explicit here. Every single emotion, anxiety, anger, guilt, fear begins with a thought.
Every single one.
Every single one. We do not suffer from the events themselves. We suffer from our interpretation of the events.
So what does this all mean? Because, okay, if you're listening to this right now, you might be thinking, sure, this sounds great in a quiet room, but what about when my actual life falls apart?
Of course.
Let's get real. If you lose your job unexpectedly, or let's take a highly relatable, infuriating micro example.
Let's hear it.
You just bought a brand new $1,000 phone. You were walking down the street, it slips out of your hand and drops directly into a muddy puddle.
Oh, brutal.
The screen shatters perfectly. That is an objectively bad event. The x-ray is broken, right? How on earth does simply changing my interpretation fix the fact that I now have a broken phone and I'm out $1,000?
It is the most natural pushback in the world, and we have to address it head on, or else this entire framework just sounds like, toxic positivity or denial.
Yeah, like just smile at the broken phone.
Exactly. The source material is not asking you to smile at the puddle and pretend a shattered phone is a blessing. It is asking you to rigorously differentiate between the immediate factual physics of the circumstance and the prolonged psychological suffering you layer on top of it.
Okay, draw that line for us. Break down the exact milliseconds. Where does the circumstance end and the suffering begin?
All right, let's slow down time. Millisecond 1, gravity pulls the phone from your hand. Millisecond 2, the glass impacts the pavement and shatters. Millisecond 3, the phone is submerged in water.
Okay.
That is reality. That is physics. The immediate biological flash of surprise and frustration is also a natural fleeting response.
Right, my heart jumps. I gasp.
Yes, the adrenaline hits. But where does the suffering come from? The suffering kicks in at millisecond 50. The suffering is the narrative. The default mode network instantly starts spinning.
The algorithm kicks in.
Yes. I am so stupid. I always ruin nice things. I don't deserve nice things. Now I have to pay for this and I can't afford rent. My whole week is ruined. Why does bad luck always follow me? My partner is going to be so mad.
Wow, yeah. It just spirals.
Do you see the profound difference? The shattered glass didn't generate a single one of those sentences.
The event it just was. The glass broke. That's an administrative task. The mind built an entire cinematic universe around the broken glass, starring me as the tragic, incompetent victim.
Exactly. And the text points out that most of this suffering comes from a very specific mental action, which is time traveling.
Time traveling. Okay, explain that.
And Nguyen argues that suffering is inherently an act of dragging the past into the present or projecting the present into the future.
Unpack that.
Yeah.
How is the broken phone a time travel problem?
Standing over the puddle, the physics of the moment are over. The phone is already broken. You cannot change the physics, but your mind refuses to stay in the present second.
It won't accept it.
Right. It travels to the past. I shouldn't have taken it out of my pocket. I regret my actions. I should have bought the case. That is the pain of regret. Then the mind wildly swings into the future. How am I going to afford a new one? What if I miss an important call tomorrow? What if I get fired because I can't answer my boss? That is the pain of anxiety.
So it's dragging the unchangeable past into the present and pulling the unpredictable future into the present. And you're just being crushed under the weight of both.
Yes, but what is actually happening in the exact, literal second you are standing there looking at the puddle?
I mean, I'm just standing there.
Nothing is attacking you. You are just standing on a sidewalk. The source material emphasizes that the present moment is always enough. It means that if you strip away the mental narrative about the past and the future, and you just inhabit the literal, physical present second, feeling your breathing, feeling the air on your skin, looking at the physical objects around you, there is almost never an active, life-threatening emergency.
You're just a person on a street.
Right. You have everything you need in that microsecond to just exist. The suffering is entirely manufactured by the interpretation of what this broken phone means for your personal timeline.
I want to make sure I completely understand this because it feels radical. The phone is broken, yes. That means I will have to schedule an appointment, go to a store, and spend money. Those are actions I have to take in the physical world.
Correct.
But the suffering, the tight chest, the self-loathing, the ruined week that is 100% an optional layer of mental time travel that my algorithm generated, and I just blindly clicked on.
That is exactly it. You clicked the notification and your nervous system flooded your body with cortisol as a result. And we do this because we genuinely believe the thoughts are true and necessary.
We think we're solving the problem.
Exactly. We have this bizarre evolutionary quirk where we believe that ruminating on the broken phone or torturing ourselves with anxiety about the future is somehow helping us solve the problem.
Which perfectly sets up the trap. Because if we recognize that these negative time-traveling thoughts are flooding our bodies with cortisol and causing our suffering, the immediate logical human reaction is, I need to fight these thoughts. I need to stop them. I need to rewire my brain right now.
Which is cognitively the absolute worst thing you can possibly do.
Right. The text is adamant about this. Trying to stop or fix negative thoughts ironically makes them stronger.
It feeds them.
The solution provided is losing interest. What you don't engage with loses power. The book introduces this concept of non-thinking. It clarifies that non-thinking isn't suppressing thoughts. It is refusing to engage with every thought that arises, allowing us to experience life directly.
Yes.
But I have to say, thinking about fighting thoughts feels like struggling in quicksand. The harder you thrash around, the harder you argue with the negativity, the faster and deeper you sink into it. The quicksand feeds on your resistance.
That quicksand metaphor is scientifically accurate. Let's look at the psychology and neuroplasticity of this. There is a famous axiom in neuroscience: neurons that fire together wire together.
I've heard that.
When you argue with a thought, you are firing those specific neural pathways. Let's say your brain's algorithm throws up the thought, "You're going to get fired today."
A classic hit.
Right, a greatest hit of the default mode network. If you respond to that thought by engaging with it, if you say to yourself, "No, I'm not. I'm a good employee. My last review was fine. But wait, Jim did look at me weird in the hallway." No, I'm fine. You have just done two highly destructive things.
Oh no, what'd I do?
One, you have validated the thought as a credible threat worthy of investigation. And two, you have poured your emotional attention, which is the literal electrical energy of your brain, into that neural pathway. You are fertilizing the weed.
Because I'm engaging with the algorithm.
Yep.
I'm leaving an angry comment on the post, which just tells the algorithm, hey, I care about this topic, show me more.
Exactly. Leaving an angry comment boosts the post's visibility. Fighting your anxiety boosts the anxiety's visibility in your consciousness. This is why fixing doesn't work. The brain interprets your resistance as importance. If you are fighting it, it must be dangerous. Therefore, it keeps the alarm bells ringing.
Okay, this raises an important question. If fighting it is quicksand, and arguing with it boosts the algorithm, how on earth do you actually execute losing interest?
It's a skill?
Because telling someone to just lose interest in a thought that is causing them massive physiological panic feels incredibly dismissive. The brain is screaming, cortisol is pumping, hands are sweating, and you're telling the listener to just shrug at it. How do you practically do that?
You have to fundamentally change your relationship to the notification. It requires a cognitive step back. The book calls this entering the state of non-thinking. And we need to be very clear, non-thinking does not mean being brain dead. It doesn't mean sitting in a corner staring blankly at a wall, drooling, devoid of all mental activity.
It's not a lobotomy.
Not at all. It is a profound state of highly alert, quiet observation. Let's break down the exact mechanism of how to do this in real time. The thought arrives, you're going to get fired today.
Okay.
Step 1 is noticing the physical sensation, the tight chest, the shallow breath. That's your cue. Step 2 is labeling the thought. You don't argue with it. You just say, there goes my brain, making wild predictions again. Or, an anxiety notification.
It's literally strip it of its authority. You demote it from ultimate truth to random brain output.
Yes. You observe it the way you would observe a weird pop-up ad on a website. You don't yell at the pop-up ad. You don't debate the pop-up ad.
You don't try to reason with it.
Right. You just recognize it as spam. Step 3, and this is the crucial part of non-thinking, is you actively redirect your physical attention back to the present moment reality.
Give me an example of that redirect.
Say you are washing the dishes when the thought hits. You label the thought as a prediction. Then, you deliberately force your attention onto the physical sensation of the warm water on your hands. You look at the soap bubbles. You feel the weight of the plate.
Just really ground yourself in the physical.
Yes. Your brain will scream, hey! Pay attention to the firing scenario. And you simply decline the invitation. You let the thought knock on the door, but you don't invite it in for tea. You stay with the water and the plate.
Because suppression is an action. It takes energy. Pushing the thought out of your head is exhausting. But non-thinking is a non-action. It's just declining to participate.
Exactly. And because of neuroplasticity, what you don't engage with eventually starves. If you don't click the notification, the algorithm eventually starts serving you that specific brand of clickbait. It dissipates. And when that relentless mental noise finally quiets down, it leaves an empty space. The clarity.
Which brings us to a massive fork in the road. Because if we successfully stop fighting our thoughts, if we stop the constant internal debate and enter this quieter state of non-thinking, how do we actually navigate the world?
We still have to live.
Right, we still have to make choices. We still have to act. What drives our decisions if not the constant chatter of our minds?
This is where Nguyen introduces a fascinating and very stark binary. The text argues that all human decisions fundamentally stem from one of two operating systems, love or fear.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the source says fear-rooted thoughts create suffering. But acting from love for ourselves and others aligns us with our true nature and naturally produces joy.
That's the premise.
Now, I have to stop you here, because as a rational person trying to apply this to the real world, I have a major objection. Isn't fear an incredibly useful, necessary evolutionary tool?
Sure.
If I'm crossing a busy street, fear of getting hit by a car makes me look both ways. It keeps me alive. How can fear be a source of suffering if it's the very thing ensuring my survival?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's a vital distinction to make, because if we confuse biological reflex with psychological operating systems, this whole framework falls apart.
Okay, clarify that.
The fear you are talking about, looking both ways before crossing the street, pulling your hand back from a hot stove, running from a predator, that is the amygdala doing its job. It is a primary biological reflex. The threat is physical, immediate, and present. That is biological hardware functioning correctly.
It's an instant reflex, not a rumination. I don't stand on the curb and obsessively think about cars for 3 hours. Just step back.
Precisely. But Joseph Nguyen's framework is not talking about the biological reflex to avoid a speeding bus. He is applying the concept of fear versus love to the complex psychological architecture of our modern lives. He is talking about chronic psychological fear.
Yeah, abstract fears.
Yes. The fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of not being enough, the fear of uncertainty.
The fear that creates the cinematic universe about the broken phone.
Exactly. Let's look at how this plays out in a major life decision. In psychology, we might translate Nguyen's fear versus love into threat avoidance mode versus expansive exploratory mode.
I like those terms.
Let's say you are offered a massive promotion. It's a leadership role. It's exciting, but it requires new skills and higher stakes. If you are operating from the system of fear, the threat avoidance mode, what do your thoughts look like?
Oh, my thoughts are entirely defensive. What if I fail publicly? What if my new team hates me? What if I'm an imposter and everyone finds out? I should just stay in my current role where it's safe and I know what I'm doing.
Right. That decision to decline the promotion is rooted entirely in self-protection, anxiety, and a scarcity mindset. And notice the physiological state of that fear. It constricts you. It makes your world smaller. It guarantees a low-level continuous suffering because you are living out of a defensive crouch. You are constantly scanning the horizon for threats, playing not to lose.
I'm letting my inner algorithm dictate my career based on hypothetical worst-case scenarios.
Yes. Now, let's flip the operating system to love. And the text specifically links love with curiosity.
Curiosity, yeah.
If you evaluate that exact same promotion from an expansive exploratory mode, which includes self-compassion and genuine curiosity about your own potential, how do the thoughts change?
The thoughts become open. Like, I am really curious about what I could build in that role. I would love to test my skills in a new environment. I don't know everything, but I have the capacity to learn. And if I make a mistake, I'll figure it out.
Notice the difference in the physiological sensation. One feels tight, heavy, and restrictive. The other feels open, light, and expansive.
Totally.
The text makes a profound point here. When we act from love and curiosity, we naturally produce joy. Joy isn't some external reward you get for making the right decision on paper. Joy is the natural biological and psychological byproduct of operating the machinery of your life using the correct fuel.
That is such a crucial distinction. Fear is the wrong fuel for human flourishing. It's high-octane fuel for dodging a literal tiger, but it is terrible fuel for building a career or a marriage or a life. It burns up the engine. Love and curiosity are the sustainable fuels.
And when you operate from curiosity, failure ceases to be a catastrophic threat to your identity. If you are operating from fear, a mistake means I am a failure. If you are operating from curiosity, a mistake is just data.
Just data.
It's just feedback. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try something else. The suffering evaporates because the ego isn't tied to the outcome.
Okay, so let's bring this all the way down to earth. For the listener who is nodding along right now, they're thinking, okay, I get the theory. I am the observer, not the clickbait algorithm. The algorithm is constantly lying to me, causing me to time travel into the past and future.
Right.
I need to stop arguing with the algorithm, let the thoughts pass, and start operating my life from a place of curiosity rather than self-protection. How do they actually do this on a random Tuesday morning when everything is hitting the fan?
This is where we move from philosophical epiphanies to a concrete daily toolkit. The source material is highly practical because it's specifically designed for people dealing with chronic overthinking and self-doubt.
Which, let's be honest, is the modern human condition. We are all swimming in an ocean of overthinking. The text gives us several specific tools to integrate into our daily lives. Notice thoughts without judging. Spend a few minutes daily in silence to observe the mind. Trust that peace is your natural state. Act from love.
Very actionable.
But there is one specific tool in this kit that I want us to dissect entirely. Because if you are a busy person, if your inbox is overflowing, your kids are screaming, you're stuck in traffic, and you absolutely do not have time to sit in silent meditation, this is the silver bullet.
It really is.
It's a two-question filter for your brain. When you feel anxious, you ask, is this thought true? Is it helpful right now?
It is brilliant in its simplicity. It functions as an immediate cognitive circuit breaker for an anxiety spiral.
Break down why it works so well.
Let's look at it on a neurological level. When you are spiraling, your limbic system, the emotional center of the brain, is highly activated. By forcing yourself to ask and answer two logical, structured questions, you are literally forcing blood flow and electrical activity out of the emotional center and up into the prefrontal cortex, the logical, executive functioning part of your brain.
You're using biology to hit the brakes.
Exactly. Let's play this out in a scenario. It's Tuesday morning, the alarm didn't go off, you were running late, the dog throws up on the only clean rug in the house, you open your phone and see 3 urgent emails from your boss.
Nightmare scenario.
The physical panic sets in. The default mode network boots up and serves the notification, I am completely failing at life, I'm going to lose my job, and everything is falling apart.
Stop time right there. The cortisol is flooding. The quicksand is opening. You deploy the first question. Is this thought true?
Well, in that moment, your panicked brain is going to yell, yes, look at the dog vomit, look at the emails, it is objectively true.
Right. The brain will fight for its narrative. But you have to apply executive function. Is the global thought true? Are you literally completely failing at life?
No. You are a competent human being managing a chaotic 45-minute window. You have successfully navigated thousands of stressful mornings before this one. You have a track record of survival. The thought, everything is falling apart, is an extreme exaggeration. It is a distortion.
Okay, but let's say the brain is stubborn. Let's say my brain says, okay, maybe I'm not failing at life, but it is true that my boss is mad and the rug is ruined, so the panic is justified.
That is exactly why the second question is the true knockout punch. Let's concede to the brain. Let's say the thought is partially true. You hit it with the second filter. Is this thought helpful right now?
Oh, wow. That changes the entire game.
Does believing the thought I am completely failing at life help you clean the rug? Does it help you articulate a calm, professional response to your boss's emails? Does it help you find your keys?
No. It actively paralyzes you. It drains your executive function, makes your hands shake, and makes you want to crawl back into bed. Therefore, the thought utterly fails the test. It is empirically not helpful.
And because it's not helpful, you don't have to engage with it. You don't have to debate whether you're a failure. You just look at the thought and say, you are not useful to me in this moment, and you drop it.
Exactly. You recognize it as a useless piece of spam mail. You don't write a long, impassioned reply to a spam email defending your honor. You just hit delete.
Perfect analogy.
Is it true? Is it helpful? If the answer to either is no, it goes to the junk folder. You return your attention to the physical reality of getting the paper towels and cleaning the rug.
It's an incredible unburdening. It just strips the weight off the moment.
Which beautifully sets up the final piece of the toolkit, which feels like the emotional anchor of this entire philosophy. The text says, trust that peace is your natural state. You just need to stop blocking it.
That is a profoundly comforting concept, and it flies directly in the face of almost all modern self-improvement and hustle culture.
It really does.
Yeah.
We are constantly sold the idea that peace is a destination. Peace is a luxury good. We are taught that peace is something you have to build or earn or achieve through rigorous optimization.
Like a reward.
Yeah. You get peace once you clear the inbox. You get peace once you hit that revenue goal. You get peace once you finally buy the house in the quiet neighborhood.
We treat peace as a reward for hard work.
Exactly. We view our baseline state as stress and peace as the vacation.
But Nguyen's framework radically reverses that. He is arguing that peace is the baseline. Peace is the factory setting of human consciousness.
The factory setting, I love that.
Let's go back to our technology metaphor.
Yeah.
Think about your laptop or your smartphone. When you first turn it on, before you open any applications, before the notifications start firing, what is the processor doing?
It's idling.
It's cool, it's quiet, it has immense potential, but it is not stressed. That is its natural state.
The hardware is inherently peaceful.
Yes. The stress only occurs when you open 50 different tabs, run 3 heavy software programs simultaneously, and infect it with malware. The machine heats up, the fans start screaming, and everything slows down.
That's such a visceral image.
Our minds are the exact same way. We spend so much of our lives trying to add more software to fix the lagging computer. We download productivity apps, we buy new planners, we try to aggressively manage the 50 open tabs of our anxieties. We think if we just manipulate the stress perfectly, we will create peace.
But the peace is already there underneath it all.
You don't have to manufacture peace. You don't have to build it. You just have to start closing the tags. When you use the "is it true, is it helpful" filter, you're closing the tabs. When you stop time traveling into the past and future, you are closing the tabs.
Closing the tabs.
When you stop fighting the clickbait algorithm and just let the thoughts pass, the mental fans stop screaming, the processor cools down, and you realize the peace was there the entire time, just buried under a massive pile of believed thoughts.
We don't have to add anything to our lives to find peace. We just have to subtract the belief in our own stressful thoughts. That is incredibly freeing. It completely takes the pressure off.
It's a structural change in how we interact with our own reality. It moves us from being victims of our mental algorithms to being the conscious operators of our lives.
This has been an absolutely massive paradigm shift. We have covered incredible ground today. We started by dismantling the identity mistake, realizing that we are the user holding the phone, not the chaotic algorithm generating the thoughts.
Right.
We explore the exact milliseconds of how our minds manufacture prolonged suffering out of fleeting physical events by dragging us into the past and future.
And we looked at the neuroplasticity of the quicksand, why fighting those negative thoughts only wires them deeper into our brains, and how the non-action of losing interest starves them of oxygen.
We redefine the fuels of our lives, contrasting the restrictive, threat avoidance mode of fear with the expansive, joy-producing mode of curiosity. And finally, we armed you with the ultimate cognitive circuit breaker. Is it true? Is it helpful? To really lock this in, I'd love for you to read the direct quote from the author that our source material highlighted. I think it perfectly encapsulates the entire journey we've just taken.
I would be glad to. Joseph Nguyen writes, "The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your thinking. And the quality of your thinking improves when you stop believing everything you think."
When you stop believing everything you think. It's so beautifully counterintuitive, and yet it might be the most powerful realization a person can have.
Truly.
As we wrap up this exploration, I want to leave you, the listener, with a lingering question, something to really chew on as you go back to your day. Whether you are heading into the office, washing the dishes, or just taking a walk. We've established that peace is your natural factory setting, and that the present physical moment is almost always enough. But if you truly internalize that, what happens to your ambition?
Ooh, that's a big one.
Think about it. So much of our drive to succeed in the modern world is secretly fueled by that time-traveling anxiety. We hustle because we are terrified of the future, or we are trying to outrun the perceived failures of our past. If you stop stressing about the future, if you stop operating from that threat avoidance mode, do you lose your drive to achieve? Do you just become passive?
That's what everyone fears.
Or do you simply find a completely different, unburdened fuel for your journey? A fuel rooted in profound curiosity, where you build and create not because you are terrified of what happens if you don't, but simply because you are excited to see what you are capable of.
That's a powerful shift.
Something to consider the next time you notice your mind serving up a stressful notification, trying to pull you out of the quiet reality of the present moment. Thank you so much for bringing your curiosity to the table today. We'll catch you on the next one.